Aditya, welcome to Gurgaon.
Thank you.
कहाँ से आ रहे हो अभी?
Nice to see you.
Just
coming from our bar.
This is where you get sold?
This is one of our key accounts.
आदित्य, स्टार्टअप सर्कल में आजकल बड़ा गॉसिप चल रहा है कि एक नया किंग ऑफ गुड टाइम्स आया है. क्या आपके बारे में कह रहे हैं?
I really hope so. Time will tell.
Beer, whiskey, that's the man's drink. What made you start with gin?
So I think I'm a storyteller. Gin has the immense potential for telling stories, right from the ingredients to how it's consumed to the cocktails that you can make with it.
Indian men think that having gin is not so masculine. Whiskey, beer, I mean, that's what Indian men prefer. And that's what would have made you king of good times.
Right.
Gin से कितना turnover मिल जाएगी आपको?
Absolutely. You know, if you look at today's population, yes, whiskey, beer, rum, those are the symbols of masculinity. But we're also kind of breaking those stereotypes over here. It does not need to be, you know, those symbols of masculinity. Why can't a guy have a gin? Why can't I roam around with a nice glass of white wine at a party and still not have questions or eyebrows raised at me?
But you don't have stores like this in smaller cities. I mean, unless you're available across the counter where I can reach out to you, I don't even know your brand. It takes immense amount of time to build a brand, get recognized in the consumer mind. Good for a startup like you to get some valuation and move on. But can gin be a brand?
Absolutely. It can be a brand. We have made one of India's most loved gin brands. Today we have almost 19% market share in the gin industry. And I think that speaks volumes about the effort that we have put in kind of changing the mentality of the way people consume alcohol from brown spirits to now a shift in white spirits.
And how do you get into a store as fabulous as this? Wow, what a store this is. I mean, why would they accept you in the first place? You're just a startup.
आप हमारी gin try करके देखिए and you will get the answer कि why do we...
How did it all begin? Knock, knock, knock. You went store by store. Did you do that yourself?
So initially we started out of Goa, and of course I went pretty much store to store, and each store we had our own pitch that was given by me and my...
Really carting all of that yourself, or how? In a car that you used to drive?
So in Goa,
how did you take around samples?
When we started off in Goa, actually that was exactly how I did it. It was me, my little car in Goa. We loaded up the dicky of the car and we went store to store.
And you were having fun in Goa as well?
Absolutely. ऐसा business आपको कहाँ मिलेगा where you can party also and still be at the job? So in Goa हम shacks में party भी कर रहे थे. We were going door to door selling our gin, and of course we had those moments at the distillery where we were making the gin, the entire bottling line set up and kind of making that gin on our own.
And how did you land up with your first investor, Tilak Nagar Industries?
Right. So Tilak Nagar joined hands with us in 2023. By that time there were already, you know, big celebrations around our gin, if you will. And Tilak Nagar heard about our gin doing really well, and they were the ones that reached out to us,
like a typical founder who takes a lot of pain begging at investors' door. Did you have to do all of that?
So no, we were really lucky in that aspect that we built...
We meaning you?
Me and my co-founders. I've got my...
Think that, hey, we want to buy a stake. Was it your decision on the valuation? Did you have the bargaining power, or it was Tilak Nagar who told you this much, take it or leave it?
So it was more of a mutual discussion, I guess.
You were being diplomatic.
Not at all. I don't think there's a deal if both the parties are not happy.
Now, what was the percentage?
So in the first round, we diluted 10%, and then we had a follow-up investment round where our investors now have 20% stake.
Was that on a premium?
Yes, the second round, of course, was on a slight premium.
To start a liquor company, I mean, you have these giants, Radico Khaitan, ABW, they're giants that you're facing huge amount of money, corpus. कैसे battle करोगे with people like Diageo, Kingfisher? Do you have that muscle?
Sometimes you don't need muscle to win a fight.
आप एक कंज्यूमर, मेरे जैसे कंज्यूमर को कैसे ब्रांड इंट्रोड्यूस करोगे, कैसे इन्फ्लुएंस करोगे? And there are crores of people. What made you even try to launch a liquor company? So it's not anything else.
When we started, we were never of the goal to start a liquor company.
Okay.
We were just building a product for our friends and family that kind of took on the virality and took on a whole life of itself.
So it happened by chance.
Yes, it happened by chance. Let me tell you the story of how we landed our first distributor. There was this gentleman by the name of Royal Spirits, which was one of the largest distributors in the state of Goa, selling this brand of gin that has one of the Indian cities in its name. For the last 30 years, you know, that gin is one of the world's largest selling gins. I walked into his office, and this was a week into my journey with Samara, and I literally said that here is a gin that we've made. I spoke to him for 30 minutes, and all I spoke to him about why this gin deserves to exist and how we're making this gin and why we're making this gin purely from a storyteller standpoint. He turned around and said that, you know, I've been selling this other gin for the last 30 years. What I learned about gin in the last 20 minutes, I haven't been able to learn that in the last 30 years. So it are instances like those that kind of position us in the industry and give us that ability to take on the big daddies head on.
Look at the store, right? What a brilliant store. Every inch of the store is sold to one brand. And they would have paid a price for that inch. You haven't. Your products are here without having paid a price. Is this sheer luck? Is that so easy?
See, nothing is easy, right? It might seem easy the way we position it and the way we talk about it, but at the end of the day, you know, that convincing of the distributor, convincing of the store owner, I think the product speaks for itself, and I keep on repeating this fact कि अगर अच्छा product है तो आपको जगह तो मिल जाएगी. अगर आप celebrity के, you know, if you are a nepo kid in a way, you will get your first break. But you will only be successful if you're truly good at your craft, if the audiences truly accept you. Same thing, you can make, to answer your question, you can make any gin brand or whiskey brand, go into one of the liquor stores, convince the, you know, the gentleman sitting at the throne, and you will get placement. But after you get placement, right, is when the real battle starts. And I think over there, it's every product for its own.
All right, so you had passion. You came at the right point when there are a lot of new liquor companies coming in about 5 years back. But if I were to launch a liquor brand now, today, will I get shelf space here?
What happens after your first 10 days of shelf space? Is your bottle sitting on the shelf and gathering dust? Or have your first 20 bottles sold out and the people who bought your 20 bottles now standing at the door saying that I need another 20 bottles?
Scheme dete?
Bilkul.
Why would I switch from my good old Times of India to a new newspaper? Why would I switch from my tested cigarette brand, tasted gin brand to you?
Right.
Why?
So the first step of discovery that is there in our consumer journey happens on social media. Either you've seen our stories on social media, point number one, why you might want to try it. Point number two, a friend of yours might have tried our brand and now he's speaking about it.
Long journey, Aditya, to influence people through social media. Don't you need a celebrity? Don't you need mass media communication through surrogate ads?
I disagree to that completely. I feel celebrities will actually dilute my brand. My brand is for the connoisseurs. The kind of audience that we are speaking to with my brand does not necessarily associate with a traditional celebrity. They do not consume the traditional forms of media. So I guess the innovation lies in how we are telling our stories with an Indian twist, with a sense of humor, with actually, the founders going behind, or rather in front of the camera.
Well, that's
and
an
telling our
interesting
story.
story. So founders going in front of the camera. So I see that trend happening with too many startups. The traditional business, I mean the large ones that got built over the years, the founder was more of a corporate guy behind the scene.
Right.
Do you think that founders should really come in front of the camera? It's chasing fame rather than building business.
I look at it as being transparent. The consumers need to know who is the person running the company. Brands are kind of reflections of the founders. Until the time the younger audiences or the new age audiences don't see who the founders are, I don't think they relate to brands anymore.
Aditya, how do you make people buy? I can see this lovely bottles, all of them here. Why would I stretch my hand and purchase one? I don't know your brand.
So, 3 ways of consumer discovery, right? Social media.
That's a lovely word, consumer discovery. Social media and all of that you've told me. But I'm here shopping for a whiskey.
Right.
How do you make me stretch my hands and buy your gin?
If you are our target audience, you would walk past by this shelf, be attracted to the packaging, be attracted to the story that we've written on our packaging, and we hope that you're going to pick up a bottle.
That's a hope. असलियत में कैसे होती है?
असलियत में we have 19% market share today. So in actuality, we're selling tens of thousands of bottles a month. They're moving off the shelf. Every month we get repeats. So I guess that's a testament.
Proud man.
On that note, let me introduce you to Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa, meet my friend Rajan.
Nice.
Lisa represents our distributor, who is one of the largest alcohol distributors in the state of Haryana.
Lisa, क्या
And
होती
are
है?
custodians of our brand in Haryana.
Custodian of his brand, right? I mean, how is a distributor custodian of a brand? How is Samara selling in this store?
In this store, it is one of our best stores that we have in Haryana. If we talk about overall Gurgaon, we are doing really great with some.
Scheme Vim देके आप बेचते हो 1+1 free?
Not at all. We don't need to do that with Samsara,
But एक चीज I'm stuck on this question, which I was with him.
Right.
If you're saying that you're not giving schemes, he's a startup. How is he selling? Because all other startups on D2C, I see somebody is giving 40% scheme. They're competing it with each other with 1+1, something or the other, just to make consumers buy the first test.
I don't think that is happening really, with other brands also. When we say that, it is not always the schemes. And when I'm talking about Samsara, right, the brand has done so much for itself in terms of putting themselves out there through social media or through direct, direct interaction with customers. A lot of activations have gone, a lot of work has gone behind the brand, and that is how
every other manufacturer says that they are a brand. There is a difference between a label and a brand. Brand बनने में उतना consumer pull, उतना समय देना होती है. क्या आप 3 साल में brand बन गए हो?
I guess उसका आंसर तो जो हमारे consumers हैं वही दे पाएंगे. It wouldn't be right for me to comment on that. But the very fact that if Samsara goes out of stock, भीड़ लग जाती है बाहर. People are like, no, get Samsara back.
बढ़ा चढ़ा के बोल. ये founder talk कर रहे हैं.
I agree with it actually, because we have faced that as distributors. If we don't have stock for some reason, whatever, we get calls, continuous calls, as in when are we getting it? For whatever minor delays of transportation or whatever, but the moment it is not on the shelf, so we start getting immediately calls from the L1s and everybody, and they ask for it.
You are a working woman and a new generation working woman. What's making women drink gin? Up until 10 years back, women having gin, practice or a natural thing to happen. It took off in the last 10 years.
In our country.
Yeah.
So gin otherwise was considered, a woman's drink when you talk about it abroad, right? Out of the country, gin has always been believed as a women's drink. Here, it is, what has happened, there is a shift in terms of how would I put it? Women have actually come out more, and they have started purchasing on their own. Earlier, what was happening was that it was the men who would go to the
Buy it for
retailers and
them.
buy it for them, right? Gin was always there in terms of consumption, women consuming it, but now that you're seeing it, I think it's also because of the kind of retails that are there, the walk-in experience and everything. And it is also safe now for women to walk into a store, and I don't know if it's making sense, but
Absolutely.
people, you see more women walking around and taking the experience of what's there in the store and picking.
Every time you walk in, you try a new brand.
Me personally, yes, I look out for new brands.
And what's the
I do that.
psychology behind that?
It's like, see, I started when I was 18, right? I started drinking my first drink was when I was 18. And then I have been
When you were
used
18,
to.
shops like this,
No.
displays like this didn't
No,
exist.
it didn't.
Right?
It was my first drink was with my father.
Okay.
Right? And so that is when I knew that, okay, these are the brands that are available. I would drink that, I would try that. Then in college, I would also, try beers and everything. I would go to, obviously because the pub culture was there. I would go to pubs, I would try. But I knew only those brands. But today, because of so many years of, looking around, because I'm curious as a person.
So is this the crux of your quick rise?
Definitely, I think this really summarizes it well.
Had stores like this not come up, had women like Lisa not been working, you couldn't have built this brand so fast, so quick.
Yeah, I mean, if the consumers didn't have an opportunity to walk across a store like a grocery store and pick up a bottle that they
I
really
think
like,
that's the crux, but that's happening only in cities like Gurgaon, not even so much in Bombay.
no, it
Except-
definitely is happening in Bombay. Bombay has a lot of walk-in stores. So does, Goa, of course, which is one of our largest markets.
What about the larger Indian market?
So right now, our entire brand, our entire thesis is based on the tier 1 India, where products like these have that general acceptance. But as kind of urbanization grows, as globalization grows, this culture is going to make its way into the tier
All right,
2 cities.
Lisa, what do you do when a store refuses to keep his product? Says pay up front for the display or we don't store it. How do you convince that store? एक तो ये सोच है सबका मन में, स्टार्टअप आज है कल नहीं रहेगा, राइट? माल नहीं बिकती है, क्या करेंगे हम उसको लेके? This is a fear which is genuine. How does a distribution firm like yours convince a store owner about unsold stocks?
When I'm talking about convincing about a product that I have which is new or which is a product of a startup, right? The brand is with me. When I'm talking about Haryana, I will go to approach an L1. I will talk to them. So I have a portfolio of brands, right? I will be placing that new brand with it, bundling it up and saying that, hey, I have a new
This
product.
is again the crux of how a startup like you is selling. A distributor is bundling his fast-moving or better-known brands, your brand with a better-known brand.
So I would actually very nicely comment over here. I guess today Samara is the star of the bundle.
Yeah.
So Samara is the star of the bundle, and all these brands over here are riding the wave with us.
Correct. He is absolutely right. So Samsara is up there, and with that we bundle up. And if you're talking about startup brands, right? When we're talking about, he is a brand right now, right? Samsara is a brand.
Does the founder anymore come to stores? शुरू में तो मुझे अभी कहानी सुना रहे थे कि मैं खुद गाड़ी में लेके घूमता था, खुद स्टोर में जाके सेल करता था. He's become a big man now.
No, on and off, he is there. He is definitely interested, and he would come. But it's been a while that I've seen him. I would like to see him more often. But yeah, other than that, he's definitely vested into the business.
ऐसे interviews देते, but he doesn't do store visits, right?
On and off, he does.
As required. When
as
we have
required,
such
yes.
a good distribution team, then I can take a seat back.
Just that you have to,
All right, so I have to leave right now.
Good meeting you.
Lovely meeting you. Thank
We'll
you.
catch up
I
with
have
you
an
again.
event to attend, so
Take care.
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll catch up in office.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you navigate? There is no other industry which is paying state by state taxes.
So absolutely, each state is doing business in a completely new country. Each state has its own excise policy, which lays down the rules for doing business in that particular state. The way I look at it is a board game. You get an instruction manual, follow the instruction manual, and you're good.
There is no other industry, there is no parallel in the country where each state has different taxation.
So right now, the liquor industry is, every state is like a new country for doing business. हर state का एक excise policy होता है, which is like your instruction manual. Go by the rule book and you should be good to go. However, this is a very unviable system when it comes to innovation, the speed of innovation that happens in this industry. I think the entire industry needs to come together, and there are already a lot of talks on this subject where liquor should actually be put under the GST purview. There should be a nationwide liquor policy that should be devised, and that nationwide liquor policy should guide the business laws for liquor in the entire country.
And I believe liquor is one of the top five earning elements of any state. तो कौन सा state दारू का state है इंडिया में?
So the cheapest liquor, some of the cheapest liquor in the world actually is in Haryana. You would be surprised that, Haryana liquor prices might actually beat duty-free prices as well. Apart from that, Goa comes very close in the competitiveness when it's concerned with the liquor prices. And then Bombay, Karnataka have, not so much of a nice reputation. You've got a lot of expensive liquor in those two states.
आदित्य, मेरा एक बुरा आदत है, मैं जब भी मिठाई वाला दुकान का ओनर से मिलता हूँ, मुझे लगता है यार ये आदमी कितना खुश नसीब है, पूरा दिन अपना इतना वैरायटी ऑफ मिठाई खा सकते हैं. वैसे ही बिरयानी दुकान का ओनर. सो आप रोज अलग अलग फ्लेवर ट्राई करते हो? अपना शाम को महफिल बैठती है आपका?
तो उसका जवाब मैं आपको तभी दूंगा. आप बताइए, आपने समसारा ट्राई करा है अब
नहीं.
तक? तो चलिए एक काम करते हैं, ये बॉटल लेके चलते हैं. मेरा बार है.
ये आपका फेवरेट है?
यस, ये मैंने इसकी रेसिपी खुद बनाई है. ये मेरा पहला प्रोडक्ट था, तो ये फेवरेट प्रोडक्ट है मेरा.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ah, this looks so lovely, pink.
This is one of our latest creations, the City of Pink.
Ah, how much does this peg fetch Delhi government as taxes?
So, well, a very interesting question. A peg, 60 ml.
This is yummy.
I'm glad you liked it.
My mouth's got a blast. Blast of what? Vetiver? What is it?
So, what you're tasting in here is strawberries, mulberries, hibiscus, and rose.
Awesome. And it tastes so natural.
Absolutely.
But this is a ladies' drink. लड़कियों का drink बनाते हो आप क्या?
नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. That is the biggest myth. आपने आते ही जो कि सबसे बड़ा stereotype है जिन का वो छेड़ दिया है. Gin is not a ladies' drink. Gin is one of the most versatile spirits. Ladies, men, anyone can enjoy gin.
And men think it's feminine to have gin.
Not at all, I think.
जिसकी वजह से आपका सेल भी कम है.
नहीं, बिल्कुल भी ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है.
बनाते थे तो 100 करोड़ हो गया होता था.
नहीं, जिन में भी बिजनेस बनाना, स्पेशली आज के टाइम में, कोई आसान काम नहीं है.
Okay, coming back. How much does this is 60 ml?
Yes, this is 60
How
ml.
much does this fetch the Delhi government in taxes?
We can say about 80 rupees is what the
So this
government
little
takes on
peg
this.
fetches government 80 rupees.
Absolutely. In certain states, it's actually more. If you were having the same peg in Karnataka, it might be fetching the government about $100.
This year, the Delhi government earned 5,000 crore as taxes from selling liquor from manufacturers like you. And you know how much, guess how much it earned from taxes on milk and milk product? Guess.
7,000 crores?
210 crore.
Wow.
So you guys gave government 5,000 crore, Delhi alone. And the entire world of milk buying population, which is every family, gave only 210 crore. Paradox.
Cheers to that.
You're making money and the government is also making money.
Absolutely. I think we are one of excise revenue is one of the largest contributors to government revenue, and we're very proud of the fact that brands like ours are very big contributors to this revenue.
What is the base for the drink like this? Is it rice? Is it grapes? What is it?
So what you're sipping right now is essentially a gin that uses rice spirit as its base. After distilling this rice spirits, we get neutral alcohol that is then redistilled with 11 botanicals and then infused with the 4 botanicals, strawberry, mulberries, hibiscus and rose to get this drink.
My, this is sounding so exotic. आपको सिखाया जाता है ये सारी चीजें composition वगैरह?
Actually, this is the whole process of making alcohol.
नहीं, आप as a bartender, do you also describe the story behind each drink to people?
Yes, of course, if someone is interested in knowing the story behind the drink, why not?
And how many such flavors do you have?
So in gin, we've got at this point 6 flavors. And definitely growing from that.
And does he kind of do a mix of those flavors? Because gin is about the art of mixing, right?
Absolutely.
Unlike whiskey, which you have with plain water or soda, the bartender plays a very important role for the brand of the gin. Right?
Absolutely.
So what kind of a mix would you, this is a pre-mixed gin which you served.
Right, so what I mean is this is a sipping style gin. It's really good on its own. We specialize in fruit infused gins. This is one of our versions of our fruit infused gin. We've also got 3 other flavors in the fruit infused series. But if you were to make cocktails with this, it's a whole different world where, you know, creativity is just like, you know, a blank canvas. The bartender, the mixologist, or even a regular person who's just bought this bottle from a store can get as creative as he wants and kind of go as wack as he wants with ingredients, create
very interesting.
Really cool cocktails.
Aditya, how much does this bottle cost? What a lovely look. Samara Contemporary Indian Gin. Why contemporary?
So we are making a new take on our gin. Of course, you've got the textbook definitions of gin, which has been said by our Western friends. But our take on gin is very different. We've kind of reinvented the gin category with our own botanicals, our own recipes, our own style of making gin. Hence the word contemporary.
And how much does this bottle cost?
So retails for approximately between 2,000 rupees to about 4,500 rupees, depending on the state.
This particular bottle is 2,000.
Yes.
And how much do you manufacture it? Ex-factory, what is it?
Approximately about $300 a bottle.
मुझे 300 रुपए में गिफ्ट मिल जाएगी?
आप आओगे तो आप तो पूरा केस लेकर जाओ.
एक चीज बताओ, 300 रुपए का जिन 2000 में बिक रही है. What is the damn logic?
Well, that's a question for our friend sitting in the, you know, big in the finance ministry. Everything between
so liquor is overtaxed.
40 to 80% goes into tax.
Liquor is overtaxed.
Yes, definitely it is.
And that's not fair.
Absolutely, especially for brands like ours, which are not promoting intoxication.
So if taxes are reduced, the sales are going to zoom. And government is going to make more money from taxes if they reduce taxes.
So not as simple a logic as that, where, you know, you reduce taxes, sales kind of boom. But yes, definitely there could be a very good business opportunity for the government if they reduce taxes or created a different category for us craft players.
And who is a crafts player? You are a crafts player.
Yes. So what we mean by craft players is that it's not mass produced. It's not designed to be an intoxicant. It's designed to be like any other craft product telling the story of India. So if you look at our bottle, everything right from the ingredients to the bottle shape to the label shape is somewhere telling that story of artisanship.
Do people
in
really
India.
notice so much the bottle shape that you've written, the city of pink, Jaipur? You haven't written Jaipur though. Do people notice so much when they buy a bottle of drink, or is just the price tag and how it tastes later?
So today people are looking into every small details of the product that they're buying, right? A person is not just buying it, as I said, to get drunk off it or get a cheap high off it. They want the story. They want who made it, how is it made, why is it made.
How would you narrate that story? You're not allowed to advertise. Social media is one small fragment of people who buy from stores. So what is the method of narration?
So I guess a product tells the story on its own. The moment somebody for the first time tries it, they're discovering the product from social media or somebody told them. And the moment somebody tries our gin, I guess they become automatic brand ambassadors for us, and they go out spreading the word because it's such a delicious product.
अब बातें अच्छा कर लेते हैं. Is this the influence of University of California where you studied? You picked up the gift of gab from there?
I think so, could be. I think it's a culmination of just my growing up experience both in India and Los Angeles, where I spent a good amount of time and had the privilege of, traveling the world with my parents at a very early age.
$60 का इन्वेस्टमेंट थी, 30 करोड़ का कंपनी, 5 साल. मुझे तो ये फेयरी टेल या झूठ, ये दोनों में से कोई एक चीज लगती है. If 60 lakh investment fetches 30 crore revenue in less than 5 years, then everybody would be a founder.
Absolutely. I think it's the blood, sweat and tears, the countless nights.
अरे ये बातें ना हर फाउंडर करते हैं. Aditya, come on. Blood, sweat, tears. I mean, honestly, if you ask me, I don't consider you to be a founder. बुरा लग गया?
A lot of people don't. A lot of
क्यों
people,
पूछो?
आप बताइए क्यों?
It's not me. It's Piyush Goyal, the minister says so. You are a rich dad's pampered son, according to Piyush Goyal, who claims to be a founder by repackaging something fancy which already exists.
I've been going through a lot of our startup success stories, and when I go all over the country, we often have startup presenting to us what work they're doing. Fancy ice cream and cookies. In fact, I know at least 3 or 4 billionaires whose children make on one brand or the other very fancy ice creams and cookies and run a very successful business. But is that the destiny of India? क्या भारत का भविष्य उससे संतुष्ट है? Healthy ice cream, zero gluten free, whatever, I don't know. We are vegan. ये सब शब्द लगा के अच्छी पैकेजिंग करके हम स्टार्टअप बोलते हैं अपने आप को. ये स्टार्टअप नहीं है, ये एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप है, ये बिजनेस है.
Minister Goyal says, a founder is a person, and this statement came about very famous during his Mahakumbh address, who brings about something which doesn't exist and benefits the society at large, a technological innovation or any services. How is rebottling a flavor makes you a founder?
तो मेरे डैड देख रहे होंगे तो बोलेंगे ये राजन तो बिल्कुल उनकी जैसे बात कर रहे हैं. माय डैड हैज दिस पेटेंट फ्रेज, तुम क्या जानो क्या मेहनत है तुम्हारे को तो सब कुछ
बिल्कुल
प्लेटर पे मिला है.
बिल्कुल प्लेटर, and that shows up on your face. Look at the glow on your face. This is not a founder's face. 30 crore is a struggle time, but I can see the shine and glow which Minister Goyal says belongs to a rich dad's son pretending to be a founder.
So a couple of very respectful counter questions for Mr. Goyal. As you just said, we are one of the largest taxpayers, my industry and my product. If I've done 70 crores pre-tax, I have paid almost more than 30 crores of tax to the Indian government this year.
देखो टैक्स तो चांदनी चौक का दुकानदार भी पे करता है, फाउंडर कैसे बने ये बताओ.
तो फाउंडर की जो बात अगर मैं कहूँ, I think it is just dreaming of this product. Before I came up with this pink gin was sold, there were legacy brands like Blue Moon and Blue Ocean and whatnot that was selling, flavors mixed with neutral spirit for the namesake of gin. What we did was essentially came and told that story, premiumized that consumer. पहले वो बॉम्बे सफायर लंदन से आ रहा है, वहाँ पे भी नाम हमारा रखा बॉम्बे का, बना लंदन में डाल के, they're sending it over here, right? You've got Tanqueray, you've got the Star of Bombay. All these gins were coming into India from the West, and people were, flocking towards these gins. What we said was that we're going to create that Indian story. Yes, I did not do an innovation and go out and say that I've built, the next AI.
कुछ Indian story मुझे test कराए.
GPT, Keshav, why don't you make us some nice,
Keshav. Yeah.
Why don't you make us some nice cocktail?
The Indian story.
Yeah. So what we essentially did was we instilled the pride in our spirits and said that this is an Indian spirit that is as good as any Western spirit, or probably better than a Western spirit out there. That's what we did, right? And today, I would like to give you, a small example. आपने सुना होगा कोई भी 4-5 साल पहले बाहर फॉरेन कंट्री जाता था, वो बोलता था यार get me a bottle of Black Label, get me a bottle of Glenfiddich whiskey. Today, and I'm sure, correct me if this is not right, most people in Western countries are saying, oh, you went to India, get me a bottle of Samara from the duty free.
Oh, really?
Get me a bottle of Indri from the duty free, which is another whiskey, not made by us, but made by our friends, which has kind of made India proud and said that the Indian alcohol is actually better, if not equal to the Western counterparts.
That's the message for Minister Goyal.
So yes, definitely this is the message for Mr. Goyal as well as the other, lawmakers sitting out there in the parliament, that give us a chance. We are not making intoxicants over here. We are making products that India should be proud of. Look at the case of Japanese whiskeys. Today the fame and the prestige that Japanese whiskeys enjoy around the world is something commendable. The economy of Scotland is built on their whiskey production, and today again the prestige factor that those whiskies enjoy is tremendous.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the story of this cocktail. आपने मिर्जा गालिब का तो नाम सुना होगा. So when Mirza Ghalib was there, he was very fond of gin.
Acha,
And not just
gin existed prior 1856.
Yes, of course. Gin's been around since the 1700s. उसकी भी एक कहानी है, वो मैं इसके बाद सुनाता हूँ आपको.
And gin was as much a drink in India.
Absolutely.
Imported from UK.
Imported from UK. So before I get into these stories,
And Mirza Ghalib used to drink gin in Shahjahanabad, which is old Delhi.
absolutely, absolutely.
South Delhi didn't exist. The bars didn't exist.
Yes. So imagine this: Mirza Ghalib in the 1800s is sitting. He's just got his first batch of Old Tom's gin. And why Old Tom's gin? Old Tom's gin is a
Amazing
slightly
story.
sweetened form of gin. That is a gin with a little sugar. He gets this gin. He is writing his poetry. You just imagine this scene. And he adds a little bit of rose water to his gin. Right? And that was his nightly ritual. He would have the gin with a splash of rose water. Now I just told you.
But there was no soda then.
There was no soda. There was no soda. Just imagine gin, plain gin with some rose water. That was his nightly fix before writing his poetry. So, our story over here, this cocktail is actually called the Mirza Martini, which is made in honor of Mirza Ghalib and his love for gin. We've got a Samara City of Pink gin, which of course has got rose petals, hibiscus flowers and strawberries. We add tonic to this, and just in honor of Mr. Mirza Ghalib, 2 drops of rose water.
Man, you sound less like a businessman crunching numbers and more like a poet.
I think the biggest thing is that in any business, right, the moment you feel that your work and business is starting to intertwine and you're doing, you just love the subject so much that you automatically kind of become a voice for that subject.
And that's
I
why
guess
you didn't
that's
join your
where
father's business.
Yes, in a way, right? My father was into plastics and chemicals. I tried doing that.
Oh, so you did?
Yes. When I returned back for the US, I did that for about a year and a half. And I was like, yaar, ye to nahi ho payega mere se. I mean, usme, it is a, don't get me wrong, very cushy life. You know.
I bet.
Really nice.
The
You got
third
a full
generation
factory,
business,
third generation.
You didn't have to do much either.
Yeah, right, and that's what I hated about it, that it is so on autopilot, it is so set in its ways that there is no scope of innovation. अब मैं प्लास्टिक के बारे में और मिर्जा गालिब के बारे में कहाँ से कोई स्टोरी वीव करके आपको सुना पाता.
But एक चीज बताओ, I mean, why are we wired like this? Somebody who is not as lucky as you in life, a founder who's got no money and he has to struggle his way up. And it's such a tough life for him to get investors, to put his first buck, which was all saved from working in another company previously. And if the venture fails, he's thrown into dark ages, no job, no employment, a family to take care of. And he wants a father like you, yours, right? काश मेरा पिताजी के पास ऐसे पैसे होते थे. And there you are, you say that no, I have everything, but I want to still take the trouble of life, of business. Why are we wired like this, human beings?
When I was in my father's business, मैं कोई उसमें नया चैप्टर नहीं लिख रहा था उस स्टोरी में कि उसमें ये होता योगेश अग्रवाल जी थे, उनके बेटे आए, उसके बाद उनके बेटे आए, right? That's how the story would have continued. Over here we really made something that I genuinely like. This bottle is a product of my hard work. मेरे को पता है मैंने कैसे ये ब्रांड बनाया. जो आप लेबल देख रहे हैं ये तो इनफैक्ट मेरी सिस्टर ने बनाया है, बट जो ये हमारा ओरिजिनल पहले वाला प्रोडक्ट था इसका पूरा लेबल मैंने अपने आप रातों रात हाथ से स्केच करके बनाया है. इसके अंदर जो हर एक इंग्रेडिएंट, यहाँ पे 11 इंग्रेडिएंट ये लिखे हैं, मैं खुद मार्केट से खाली बावली मार्केट गया, मैं फार्मर्स से मिला, मैंने देखा कि कौन से इसमें इंग्रेडिएंट्स डालने चाहिए.
Where did you get those ideas from? क्या composition? Is it the work of a founder, manufacturer, businessman to create the ingredients, or you can pretty easily hire a distiller who is experienced in compositions?
तो जब हमने बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया था, we were not doing this as a business. It was only meant to be for my friends and families. It wasn't कि यार मैं शुरू से मेरा ड्रीम था कि मैं ये करूंगा, 100 करोड़ की कंपनी बनाऊंगा. नहीं, मेरा बस ये था कि कोविड का टाइम चल रहा है, मेरे को जिन पसंद है, मेरे को जिन का थोड़ा सा बनाने का तरीका आता है, एक स्मॉल बैच कुछ 100 बोतल जिन की बनाते हैं और डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली को, मजा आएगा, थोड़ी पार्टी करने का मौका मिलेगा.
So if you didn't have a rich father, would you have got into this business?
मेरे को ये पता है कि knowing my personality, अगर जिन नहीं होती मैं किसी और चीज के पीछे क्रेजी होता और मैं उस चीज को परस्यू करता, मे बी नॉट एज अ बिजनेस बट जस्ट फ्रॉम माई नेचुरल क्यूरियोसिटी.
Your first office, where did you start from? Your father's office?
So
honest, no PR
ऑफिस तो था नहीं हमारा कुछ. मैं लंदन में गया था, वहाँ पे कोर्स अटेंड किया जिन बनाने का. आई केम बैक, तो आई मेड माई फर्स्ट वर्जन ऑफ अ जिन इन द किचन. उसी प्रेशर कुकर में जो जिन बनाई उसी को हमने छोटी छोटी बॉटल्स अमेजोन से ऑर्डर करी, उसी में भर के लेबल चिपका के उसके ऊपर मैंने लोगों को दी कि यार ये देखो ये मैंने बनाया है. कई लोगों ने बोला पागल हो गया यार, कुछ काम वाम कर ले, दारू पीता रहता है, दारू लेकर आ रहा है, दारू बांट रहा है, कुछ गेट अ लाइफ, right? But a lot of people actually enjoyed it and said, wow, that's a good gin. I haven't tasted something like it.
And from Aggarwal family, daru is a stigma.
Yes,
very
big stigma. My family owns temples across Delhi, so
oh, is it?
If my dad in the heydays of when we were starting, or I was rather not even starting the business, just experimenting around in the kitchen, my dad would get really pissed that what are you doing? And in fact, one afternoon, लॉकडाउन का टाइम था, मैं रोज ऐसे बॉटल्स वगैरह लगा के दोपहर में बैठ जाता था, एंड माई मॉम वुड गेट रियली पिस्ड एंड माई डैड वाज सिटिंग अराउंड. तो एक दिन शाम को माई मॉम रियली लॉस्ट इट. शी स्टार्टेड येलिंग एट माई डैड कि इसको कुछ काम धंधा है नहीं, बोतलें लगा के दोपहर से बैठ जाता है, कुछ बोलो कि मत पियो, कुछ करो तो बोलता है मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. तो ये नया इसने इज क्रिएटेड अ फ्रंट कि मैं दारू पीऊंगा और कोई बोलेगा क्यों पी रहे हो, तो बोलेगा ये काम कर रहा हूँ.
My brand, recall you're one among the top 10 gin brands in India. Is your father proud of you now?
Absolutely. I think he would never admit it to me.
Why are fathers like this, where they put on a facade of not admitting to their children that they have surpassed their names?
You're always living up to their expectations, right? आप 12th क्लास पार करते हो तो आपको लगता है यार कॉलेज में कुछ करके दिखाते हैं, कॉलेज करते हो तो आपको लगता है जॉब में कुछ करके दिखाते हैं, and there's a never-ending ladder. Your parents, while they might be satisfied, that gap between the understanding, not understanding, but accomplishment of your personal goals and your parent would never match.
Okay, Aditya, your first office was from home, and not long back. When did you get the first office? How long back was that?
So we moved into our rented facility about a year and a half.
But that was not from the family office.
No.
Why not?
Same thing as I said, right? I want to chart my own path.
हाँ, but दुश्मनी तो नहीं था पिताजी.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं था. बिल्कुल वो तो
like the story that we hear about the founder of Bira, where his father didn't speak to him for good 5 years. Your father didn't disown you, did he?
Not at all, not for a second.
So why didn't you start from his office? Why didn't you tell him warehouse में थोड़ा जगह दे दो?
But I still felt my space is my space. तभी वो जब हमने अपना ऑफिस बनाया, जब मैं वहाँ पे था तो मैं वहाँ पे, I mean people respected me not because I was my father's son, but people respected me because they knew the brand I've built.
You're from University of California. Secret बताओ, इतना सारे इंडियन फाउंडर्स अमेरिकन यूनिवर्सिटी से क्यों निकल रहे हैं? जिसको भी मैं देखता हूँ, either they're from IIT or from some American university. What's the secret sauce?
No, I just feel the secret sauce is exposure. American universities are giving you more exposure. You're not sitting with a group of, people who've come from similar backgrounds. आपके पास 270 कंट्री के लोगों के साथ interact करने का मौका मिलेगा. Your fundamentals has been according to the Indian system. तो जैसे ही आप नए सिस्टम में जाते हो, आपका जो माइंड है वो एक्सपैंड करता है, नई चीजें देखते हो, both from a cultural and academic perspective. और उसी से I guess that's where the magic happens. So Keshav, what should we make Rajan try next?
Sir, we'll go with gin.
Of course, gin के अलावा और क्या पिलाएंगे आज?
टल्ली होके घर जाऊंगा आज मैं, है ना केशव?
That's so nice of you.
क्या बोल रहे हैं? That's so nice of you. मतलब टल्ली होके मैं घर जाऊँ? भाई जिन से कोई टल्ली नहीं होता है. Unless you have a half bottle of whiskey. क्या सही बोल रहा हूँ?
नहीं, ऐसी बात तो नहीं है.
Alcohol component of gin is far lesser than whiskey.
No, that's a myth.
That's a myth again.
That's a myth again. Alcohol component, whiskey could be 42.8%, gin could be 42.8%, as is the case with.
So मैं शुरू में जो पूछ रहा था, why is it considered a ladies drink? अगर अल्कोहल कंपोनेंट सेम है, तो जिन को क्यों सॉफ्टर समझा जाता है?
समझा जाता है being the keyword. असली में है नहीं.
अच्छा.
Right? These are just stories जो कि चली आ रही हैं. If you look at them, they all go back to the British Raj, right? When the club culture was there,
Okay.
you would also always find, the gentlemen probably having a glass of whiskey or cognac, and the women will be having a gin and tonic. So I guess that's where those stories originate from. And then who tells us what is ladies and what is men's? It's our fathers and grandfathers. Our fathers and grandfathers are used to listening to those stories from that era, hence the myth continues today.
क्या पिला रहे हो केशव?
Let's go for a classic gin, sir, with some Samara pink.
Okay.
Keshav, what glassware are we using?
We'll use this one for
Okay.
garnet. We'll drop 3 drops of Vodka along with.
ठीक है. Very good, very good. I really like that.
This compositions that he's saying is not really composition, it's the mixology.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
अब mixology मतलब 2-3 चीज को mix कर रहे हैं, which is an art of serving gin.
बिल्कुल.
But there is the art of making, which is the ingredient
Right.
that you discover across the world.
Right.
How much component in terms of percentage would you mix to get that right flavor? This is secret ingredient, quite like Coca-Cola or the KFC chicken. How do you keep it secret?
Absolutely. So जब हम लोग जिन बना रहे थे, as I said, हमने सिर्फ 100 bottles बनाई थी. The moment we tried and scaled up a little bit, it was like यार इसको scale कैसे करें? So at that point of time, I called up my mom and I was just having a discussion कि यार ये 1000-1200 bottle बनानी है, कैसे करेंगे? तो मैं थोड़ी जाके अब 1000-1200
Why is this mom thing for a 30? Where is the girlfriend, man? Why is always a mom and a sister and a father?
See, we're a proud Indian family-owned business. See, Dad, I said it on camera.
अब इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि 31-year-old founder बड़ा swag होता है. सुना मैंने पहले IITian से शादी करना चाहते थे लड़कियां, आजकल फाउंडर से करना चाहता है.
I guess when the time is right, you would be the first one to receive the invitation. So anyway, I called my
I love
mom.
this sound.
Yeah, I think it's sound of this and sound of bottling halls.
So what is the mixing? Ice and?
So we've got ice, we've got gin, we've got lemon juice, and we've got simple syrup. Simple syrup is sugar syrup. A little bit of, so usually the cocktail he is making has a very foamy top to it.
Very unhealthy.
That foamy top is usually
ये निकल
नहीं,
जाएगा.
बिल्कुल नहीं निकलेगा. आप समसारा पी रहे हो, क्यों निकलेगा? Usually we use egg white to get the foaminess or the texture of the cocktail. But in this we are using vegan foamer. So basically that's a vegan alternative to the egg white. A couple of drops of it.
Awesome.
And kind
You're
of
making
foams
alcohol
up
sound so damn exotic, so damn interesting. I wish you had some means to communicate all of this to people who buy gin from stores.
राइट सो अगर आपने हमारा सोशल मीडिया देखा होगा राइट तो उस पे ये जो हमारी स्टोरीज हैं आज सोशल मीडिया इज वेरी फाउंडर लेड जो स्टोरीज हैं जैसे हम बनाते हैं जो डे टू डे हम एक्टिविटीज करते हैं ऑल दैट वी ट्राई टू ब्रिंग टू आवर कंज्यूमर्स थ्रू द मीडियम ऑफ आवर सोशल मीडिया
Coming back to the question of how to keep the secrecy of ingredients. How do you do that?
so
You mentioned that your mother knows about
Yes.
it. No one else.
yes
But how can you scale up?
So when we got our first big order, my mom said कि यार तुम लोगों को कुछ नहीं आता है मैं बताती हूँ कैसे स्टैंडर्डाइज करते हैं कैसे इसको हम प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे. So I narrated the recipe to my mom. Cheers, Keshav. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
this
much,
drink.
Keshav.
Please also let me know
Yeah.
how it tastes.
And thank you, thank
Yes,
you, thank
cheers.
you. I mean, the glasses look equally attractive.
Oh, this is beautiful. Absolutely, really good, Keshav. Thank you.
Very, very good. Very, very good. मैं तो यार वापस आने वाला हूँ.
So anyway, back to the story.
So by that point, your mother was past the thought कि मेरा बेटा पता नहीं दारू को लेके क्या कर रहे हैं. Because she started participating in your venture.
Yes, definitely. And my mom, unlike my dad, is a very, chill, bindas person. I guess my mom is the one who's, accompanying me for drinking adventure outside rather than my dad at times. So when my mom kind of learnt about our big order, she helped us standardize this recipe. जो भी हमारे botanicals हैं that you see at the front of every bottle, she kind of created what we call a botanical bag, which contains X amount of all these dry ingredients that are then kind of coursed up so that it creates a mixture, and one bag that we now makes 1,000 liters of gin. So this is a secret. What goes inside the bag only my mom knows and I know at this point of time.
How is that? It's not possible for a distiller not to know your composition. End of the day, you can't scale up this brand from 70 crore to 500 crore unless you have manufacturing spread across the country.
Absolutely, and I guess this, so just a McDonald's or any other, fast food outlets are there, they follow the same standardization method where certain ingredients are standardized and recipes are standardized, and then the master distiller is kind of playing his art just by tasting it at every step or every checkpoint, if you will, and making sure that it's actually being made according to the control samples that we have. So that's how, without, revealing our recipes, the master distiller's art remains intact and he's able to do great justice to our
There
product.
was attempt at aping your flavors by a competitor, and they kind of succeeded too. So how is that you couldn't still stop them?
So there is a Pepsi to every Coke, there is a Campa to every Pepsi.
Smart answer.
But a Coke is a Coke, a Pepsi is a Pepsi, a Samsara is a Samsara. There might be competitors, but I guess the people who truly love our taste will come back for Samsara.
What's the idea ahead, Aditya? Is it just going to be limited to a gin brand or a liquor brand? Because you have formidable competition from a transnational. I mean, Diageo is not a gin brand primarily. I mean, it manufactures various kind of liquors.
Product is the core center of everything. हमने प्रोडक्ट बनाए, दुनिया ने आके बोला ये हमको दो, हमको पीना है. हमने एक स्टोर से स्टार्ट करा, आज हम 5,000 स्टोर में हैं. मैंने कभी भी फोन करके ये नहीं बोला कि आप हमारे को अपने स्टोर में आप बाद में रख लो. हमको फोन आया कि आपका प्रोडक्ट हमने ट्राई किया, बहुत बच्चे हैं, हम रखना चाहते हैं. Can you supply your product to us? I know this is a very close-minded strategy that's worked for Samsara.
And it smacks of pride. You would have to eventually get on with outreach program. How would you do that? What kind of financial muscles do you have? Do you at all?
So we actually have early investment from one of the largest liquor companies in India called Tilak Nagar Industries. They're one of the world's largest brandy manufacturers. So with our distribution network that Samsara has built and the distribution network of Tilak Nagar Industries, our distribution network, combined distribution network, actually rivals that of Diageo and Pernod at this point.
But Tilak Nagar Industry is more into the mass market distribution. So their products are going into tier 2, tier 3 cities, and also in tier 1 cities, the vents, which are the smaller ones, because it's the price point of Tilak Nagar is that of mass market. Gin is not mass market, B, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to become mass market unless you reduce prices. Your bottle prices are 1,300 to 2,000 bucks.
And that's on the lower spectrum. But I feel India is premiumizing. Today, the people who go and kind of have a nightly fix and calling alcohol as a nightly fix over here are reducing. People want that sophisticated experience. So as we deepen our penetration into those mass market outlets, we will actually end up premiumizing the customer over there. And we hope that that customer is going to upgrade from mass market brands to brands like ours. Till now, with those distribution networks in place, the customer hasn't gotten the choice to kind of try higher prestige products until this point of time, where brands like Samara will now make it to mass market shelves.
Tilak Nagar Industry is a one-time investment, not a very big ticket investment. You need a lot of money to be pumped into the channel distribution. You have to have your own setup.
Right.
Do you have the money for that?
Well, yes, we are of course, from the cash flow that we generate, yes, we have a very robust cash flow that we have put in place. We also have an ability to raise money from the public through means of an IPO or through private investors. And trust me, we've got a line of investors after us. So don't be surprised if we actually end up creating one of the Diageos out of India.
And your father is not in the queue of investors.
My father's there as a backup always. I don't think that as long as my father's there, I need to look anywhere else for money. But yes, if we get investors, our priority is to grow investor wealth as well.
Is this what makes second, third generation entrepreneurs successful, that they have a backup? A lot many founders who were professionals and who has to work with VC funds, which creates a lot of pressure to deliver all the time. Vis-a-vis you, if you're working with your father's fund, वो pressure कम होती है.
I look at it differently. I think I would have always had more pressure if I worked with my father's money. With the VC money, I am more responsible. With my father's money, he would not be comfortable. He would ask me questions every day. With investor money, it's almost like a principal and student relation, where I know I have to do this right. I have one chance to do this right, and I have one chance to write my legacy. If I screw around with investor money, yes, today I might make a buck over here, but I'm only 31. I still have 60 years ahead of me probably to write a legacy for myself.
So, were you taking pocket money from your father when you returned? Obviously, up until the time that you were in university, you got your share of spending from your father. When you came back and started this business, how was it? The initial 6 months or 9 months?
It wasn't very pleasant. My father and I always had differences on the way stuff is supposed to be done. He was on the seat for the last 30 years at that point of time. His ways were set. He did not want any sort of interference in his ways. And the last thing I wanted to do was do things his way. So there was a lot of differences that were there. It was more of a job, यार सुबह जाना है, काम करना है, जो डैड ने बोला है वो करके वापस आना है. There was no fun of it. Yes, from a financial standpoint, ठीक है यार, वो तो कभी problem थी नहीं, whatever required was given, right? But वो मजा नहीं आ रहा था, और I was in fact, you will believe it or not, after COVID, when I said कि यार मेरे को नहीं आपके साथ काम करना, I said ठीक है, don't do anything with me. I'm not going to pay you a penny. Figure it out.
Oh, is that so?
Right.
Yeah.
Not saying कि यार मैं सड़क पे आ गया कुछ नहीं. I had a fat bank balance. My mother was there. Everything. ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. But yes, जब मैंने जिन start करी, तो जो जिन की कंपनी से मैंने पहली सैलरी अपनी from day one, I said that I need to draw a salary. तो पहली सैलरी ली मैं 25,000 rupees a month से मैंने start किया, and that kind of expanded up.
उतना तो मेरा सैलरी है अभी मेरा कंपनी से. तो आपको कितना मिल रहा है? मुझे 25,000 मिलता है.
अब वो बात,
अब शर्मा मत बोलो.
जो मैंने सोचा था कि अमेरिका में मिलेगा उससे कहीं ज्यादा मिल रहा है.
क्या 10 लाख?
We can say in that.
और आपके दोस्तों को कितना मिलती है जो आपके साथ पढ़ाई की और प्रोफेशनल्स बन गए? किसी भी फील्ड में ऑन एन एवरेज उनको
I
कितना
guess
मिलता है?
there would be कई लोग बहुत ऊपर भी होंगे जो इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग फील्ड में हैं, जो टेक फील्ड में हैं, अमेरिका में हैं, उनकी ऑफ कोर्स इस पॉइंट पे $500,000 सैलरी है. बट आई गेस कि जो सेटिस्फैक्शन मुझे है कि मैंने प्रोडक्ट बनाया, घर घर में मेरा प्रोडक्ट गया, दुकान दुकान में मेरा प्रोडक्ट लगा, आई गेस वो सेटिस्फैक्शन की फीलिंग इज व्हाट गिव्स मी फुलफिल.
Aditya, how is Samsara different from a dozen odd gin? Couple of them are founders like you, startups, and then there are legacy brands. Is it the packaging? Is it the composition? The alcohol content? The lesser the better? How is it different?
Simple answer is just the taste. You always go back to your favorite golgappa vendor on the side of the street, even though it might not be the the most nicest of ambiences, but you're going back for the taste, and you would always go back for generations. Same thing with the Samsara. I think the taste, we've really nailed it.
How do a gin company founder decide what is the right taste? वो benchmark क्या है? वो parameter क्या है?
तो पैरामीटर तो कोई नहीं है, इट्स कम्प्लीटली सब्जेक्टिव. एज आई सेड, आई हैड द प्रिविलेज कि मैं बहुत बार्स में दुनिया भर में, लॉट ऑफ रेस्टोरेंट्स, द टॉप 50 बार्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, आई हैड द प्रिविलेज ऑफ विजिटिंग, ईटिंग, डाइनिंग, ड्रिंकिंग एट दीज प्लेसेस. सो द पैलेट वाज काइंड ऑफ refined to the point where I was able to take a stance and say, okay, I feel that I've tried enough things in my life, and I think what we've got over here is great.
What do you want to do with this company? Tilak Nagar Industry is not a gin oriented company. It's a mass market whiskey brand. It's a good acquisition for them. They spotted you early and they put in very small monies with a lot of gains. Do you have elbow room to sell more of your stake and bring in an investor which reaps you a lot of benefit, because your earliest investor who held your hands at a very early stage, Tilak Nagar Industry, is also a liquor brand, but they bought it cheap. आपने पैसे नहीं बनाए.
Right. See, my goal over here is, as I've said, I want my brand to be there in every household of India. I want my brand to reach the stature of Old Monk. I want it to reach the stature of Amul and Parle G. That's the vision I have for my brand. Whether it's through gin or whether it's through other spirits that we make. To achieve this vision, what we require is certain sort of fundraising. That one way or the other, there are 100 different ways to raise funds in the market.
You're galloping. Your turnover is galloping. Not in terms of turnover, but in terms of brand recall. You already won among top 10 gin brands in the country. A little bit of research helped me find that out. इसके आगे turnover बढ़ना ही है, but पैसे कैसे बनाएंगे?
तो of course अभी तो इंडिया है, सिर्फ जिन है, पूरी दुनिया बाकी है.
वो ठीक है, but क्या आप अपना स्टेक डाइल्यूट करेंगे? क्या आपका पार्टनर तिलक नगर इंडस्ट्री अलाउ करेंगे आपका स्टेक डाइल्यूट?
बिल्कुल करेंगे. आई गेस इट इज लाइक सेइंग कि शुड आई एंजॉय वन स्मॉल पिज्जा फुल बाय माय सेल्फ और शुड आई हैव अ फैमिली स्टाइल पिज्जा आई नीड वन स्लाइस.
Aditya, startup founders actually make money by selling steaks and bits and pieces on a premium. They don't make money out of profits or turnover. Turnover increases, so valuation does, and if valuation does, the next round of investment brings in a premium.
That might work for certain companies. That might be the rule of thumb for certain companies that are kind of charting the startup world of India and the West right now. Whether that stereotype applies to us or not, I think it's too early to say. I wouldn't want to comment on that and say that our goal is to, dilute equity, founder equity in, round after round. I don't think so. That's the goal.